Welcome to The Spacious Place with Andrea Best, brought to you by CKJ Live. The Spacious Place is where you get to be who you really are. Not what your experiences say, not what your role as a wife or a mom says, not even what your job title says or doesn't say. You get to be who you were fearfully and wonderfully created to be. Join me as we explore the woman inside, the one who longs to be set free. Let's talk with women who journeyed and found themselves surrounded by endless amounts of opportunity. And at this point, they're unstoppable. So if you're ready to be you, truly you, make room, grab a pillow, and welcome to The Spacious Place with Andrea Best. Hey guys, welcome to The Spacious Place with Andrea Best. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. We have such an interesting topic today, ladies, and I'm excited about it. So there are so many relationships in our lives that shape us. The type that we're going to talk about today, though, I am so excited because it's probably one of my favorites. Today, we're going to be talking about mother-daughter relationships. You know, I feel like the theme of the past episodes has been like being intentional in your marriage, being intentional in your friendships, even in your own mindset, being intentional about what you're thinking. But I think this is the type of relationship that kind of falls by the wayside in the intentionality category. So I have some guests for today's show, and we're going to be diving deeper into this topic. So my first guest is a certified adolescent and relationship life coach with the mission to empower young women to find and embrace their individuality, as well as motivate adult women to discover, accept, and walk boldly in their purpose. She's the founder and executive director of Pretty Me, Inc., a 501c3 nonprofit organization for girls ages 12 to 18. She's an advocate for all things female and has a strong passion for what she does. When she's not coaching or mentoring, she's a wife and mother of 2 boys and a cute little puppy. I'd like to welcome Coach Dominique Robinson to The Spacious Place. Welcome.
Thank you so much for such an amazing introduction. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for being on the show. I am so excited about this topic, Coach Dominique. So you have recently released a workbook that I'm super excited about. It's called Between Us, a Mother and Daughter Workbook to Strengthen Communication. Can you tell me, where did that come from? What was the inspiration behind that book?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the major influences for the book was the girls and moms that I get to work with within my organization, Pretty Me, Inc. With those interactions and relationships, I noticed there tends to be a pattern of conversation from the girls expressing that mom doesn't always understand where they're coming from, which then leads them to feeling misunderstood sometimes. So then on the flip side, though, I also have some moms who feel the exact same way. And I have some moms who have a sense of denial or disconnect from that part of their relationship with their daughter. So I wanted to create something that could assist both the mom and the daughter in determining how to bridge that communication gap. But this workbook is also for moms and daughters who already have good dialogue within their relationship. So very versatile.
Yeah. And I have gotten an opportunity to look at it. And ladies, it's really something that you need in your life because like I said in the beginning, mother-daughter relationships is not something that we're really intentional about.
Right. That's very true.
Yeah. And so when you were, thinking about the topics of the book, I noticed that even in the title, it says a workbook to strengthen communication.
Yes.
Why do you think this is a common issue that you're dealing with when you're dealing with mother daughters?
Oh my gosh. And just to be even more specific, the common issue is a lack of effective communication.
Wow.
In mother-daughter relationships or in other relationships, but specifically, in this regard, mother-daughter relationships. So what I see is, overall, as parents, we have a tendency to dictate when we speak. which will almost immediately cause the child to become defensive.
Yeah.
And when that happens, the child is no longer listening to comprehend, but now they're listening to react.
Right.
And once that tone has been set, it creates a disconnect and then that uncomfortable friction within the relationship. So I find that lack of effective communication tends to be very common amongst the mother-daughter relationship.
Yeah. And in the book, you even talk about 7 tips that you give for effective communication.
Yes.
Now, if you want to go through them quickly or just tell me kind of just skim through a couple of them, do that. But then which do you think is the most challenging of those?
Well, let's see. The 7. So here, I'll run through them really quickly.
Okay.
Starting at number 1, when speaking to one another, make sure you look at each other. Number 2, give your undivided attention, even if it's only for a minute. Number 3, remain open-minded to the conversation or the topic. Number 4, make sure you're listening to comprehend and not react. Number 5, do not interrupt, no matter how much you may not agree. Number 6, ask questions to ensure you understand what is being said. So getting that clarity. Mm-hmm. And then number 7, make sure you are talking to each other and not at each other. So with those, I think the most challenging might be I think I might have mentioned it a little bit, is making sure you're listening to comprehend and not react. Mm-hmm. So this goes for all relationships, whether it's family, personal, intimate, what have you. When you're having a conversation with someone, a lot of times we're in our head. And I like to call it like we're playing double dutch, meaning we aren't giving our full attention to what the other person is saying because we are so busy preparing our response or preparing to react.
Ready to jump in.
Exactly. That's that double dutch. You're waiting. You're waiting for your turn. Like, oh, okay, will she hurry up and finish so I can jump in and get my point across and say what it is that's on my mind, instead of listening to have a better understanding of what's being communicated to you and absorbing that and then responding. Right. That seems to be a big challenge.
Yeah. And I think because as a teenage daughter, when I was, it's like you want to be heard. You just want to be seen. You want to feel like your feelings are valid. And I think that that's one of the key reasons why that friction is there too. Is like both people want to be heard. Yeah. You're trying to establish yourself as, a person, and that you just start to bump heads at that point.
Absolutely. And like you said, as a teenage daughter, or even getting into that teenage stage, you're trying to figure out who you are. Mm-hmm. You're identifying your now self as this young lady, as this young woman. And yeah, I want to be able to freely express myself. I want to be able to be heard and not silenced. And so that can be hard in itself already, but it's also a turning point for mom, because now mom is having to deal with this emerging young lady as well, whom she may not be used to having these newfounded difficulties or things like that. Right. So yeah, that I agree 100% in that regard. Yeah.
And I even think about like my relationship with my mom as a teenager versus my relationship with her now, and just the way that it has evolved. When you work with your clients, your mother-daughter clients, do you often see that evolution, like that it starts this way and then the older it gets, or they start really young and the relationship has its ebbs and flows? Like, what does that look like from your perspective?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Even speaking from my own personal experience as a child, I didn't always understand where my mom was coming from, why she would parent a certain type of way or why she would do certain things. And it wasn't until I became an adult that I gained a better understanding of her position. Oh, okay, she was a little bit overprotective because of this, or she did certain things because of situations that happened in her childhood, right? Things that happened to her. So once you kind of grow out of that child and teenage year, I've seen that, the daughter now has a better understanding because she's now a woman herself. Right. And she has a better understanding of the position of her mom, who's also a woman. So then it changes from, this is my mom. Yes. But before she's even my mom, she's a woman herself.
Right. Yep.
And, we develop that understanding, and it allows for better communication and so on. So
Yeah.
I definitely see a change, happen. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think of my relationship with my mom and how when I became a mom myself, it
Hmm.
evolved even further from when I went
Yeah,
off to college. And then when I came back and started working, there was a different relationship there. But when I became a mom, I just feel like it,
absolutely.
woo, this is the different
Completely
level,
changed. Yep.
right? Different level of understanding with one another.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah. So as I read through this book and as I talk to you now, I love that you get so transparent in the book. I think it's so necessary. Can you
Absolutely.
tell me why that was so important for you? Because I absolutely appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Well, the book gets very personal and intimate at different points, and I didn't want the readers to feel alone or judged.
Hmm.
Instead, I wanted to create a safe space. So as people, we tend to get comfort from others whom we can relate to, right?
Hmm.
With my mentees, with my girls, I'm always 100% transparent with them so that they have an understanding and they know that I get it. I was there. I understand. And then that builds trust because every relationship is give and take.
Right.
And in this book, I'm asking a lot of the mom and the daughter. So
Hmm.
it's only right that if I'm asking so much of them, that I give them those same pieces of me as well.
Right.
I don't want the reader to be, oh, I'm picking up another book and it's just this lady behind the pen telling us what to do. No, I'm human too. I'm a woman too. I'm a
Hmm.
daughter. I'm a mom. I get it. And so I didn't want the readers to feel like they were being dictated to from somebody that they don't know. I wanted to put myself into it. So even if they've
Right.
never spoken to me, they've never met me, they get a sense of who I am. They feel that I can relate, and I create that space for them.
Yeah, and I think that's so important because when they're doing the workbook and they're reading through it, it's kind of like they have a mediator there.
Right.
It's not like you're on one side or you're on another side. It's really like they're sitting there with you in your office, or you
Mm-hmm.
guys are out to lunch and you're all three of you are having this conversation. And I think that that's so good, just the way that is written, that is just it feels really personal. And I think that a lot of mother and daughter relationships are going to benefit just from that point alone of feeling like both of them are being heard.
And that's exactly what I wanted. I didn't want one side to feel like, oh, she's coming at me, or the other one to feel like, well, why she's not saying anything to her. No, it takes two.
Hmm.
The work has to come from both ends, mom and daughter. And I'm not taking anybody's side because, like I said, I'm a mom and a daughter. So
Right.
I've experienced both sides of it. And I wanted that to be conveyed in the book. I wanted it to feel very personal, like, hey, we're all three sitting in a room talking and doing the work together, judgment free and openly.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm glad that you got that from the book because that's exactly what my intentions were.
Yeah. And I think about I always think about my relationship with my mom just because it has had its ebbs and flows and has been up
Hmm.
at points and been down. And just thinking about who I was becoming as a woman and what I felt like I needed from the relationship from my mom. And I think this book would have been something amazing for us to have.
Thank
One thing that I want to talk about is setting boundaries in your
you.
relationship with your mom. What does that even look like? Like, how do you even start to set boundaries? Because uh, is some and in some mother daughter relationships that's not allowed.
Right. You are silenced a lot of times.
Hmm.
And but I feel like in every relationship boundaries should be set.
Hmm.
In the book specifically, I speak about love languages and basically being able to communicate and interact with someone based on their level of understanding and comfort. But that is also the same case when it comes to learning someone's trigger language.
Yeah.
So, what makes them upset or uncomfortable? And then the best way to learn both of those, the love language and the trigger language, is simply to ask questions
Hmm.
and to be observant. In doing so, you're able to set healthy boundaries within the mother and daughter relationship.
Hmm.
And I now know and understand what you like, what you dislike, what makes you happy, what makes you sad. And just like that, boundaries are set We now know how to interact with each other. But again, like you said, sometimes it's not allowed, but that goes back to both mom and daughter have to be willing and open enough to allow that type of relationship.
Yeah.
Both voices need to be heard.
Yeah, that's so true. And that's so good because I think, like I was saying at the beginning, this is not a relationship that you feel like you have to do that, because I just feel like, as moms, we just flow into our role.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you never get that opportunity to be like, okay, you know what? I need to do this for my relationship with my daughter because, she's going to run into these things and these things. Like we do it with our friendships. Sometimes we definitely do it in our marriages. But I feel like it's our mother-daughter relationships are so pivotal in our lives. And that it should be one of the most important ones for us to sow into.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. You, as a parent, I think, probably prior to having kids, you say, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make sure this happens. I'm not going to do this, etc. And then you become a parent and it kind of becomes, I don't know necessarily a routine, but you get into the habit. You're parenting. You're just doing it. You don't have a handbook. You don't have a guide necessarily. You're just doing it. And you don't think about it in a sense of, or you don't always think about it in a sense of, I need to make sure this is happening within my relationship with my daughter. I need to make sure she understands where I'm coming from when I speak to her. I need for her to know who I am outside of being her mom, who I am as a woman, so that she has a better understanding of why I do certain things that I do. And with that understanding, maybe she'll then feel like she can relate to me. She can open up to me. We can have those deep and hard conversations. Because now we've built that trust and that rapport with one another. A lot of times as parents, it's look, you're my child. What I say goes. This is what it is. But no, it's a relationship just like any other relationship. And you have to put in the same energy and work, probably even more than you would in any other relationship.
Yeah, because a lot of the times mothers, the relationships with their daughters will shape the way that they behave in other relationships.
100%. 100%.
You guys, thank you so much for joining us for part 1 of Mother-Daughter Relationships with Coach Dominique. Next week, please come back because we have a super special guest that will be joining us. I am so excited. But until next time, you've been listening to The Spacious Place with Andrea Best. You've been listening to The Spacious Place with Andrea Best, brought to you by CKJ Live. Psalm 118:5 says, "When hard pressed, I cried to the Lord. He brought me into a spacious place." Come back and join me as we make more room in our lives to be the women we were created to be. Let's live in the spacious place.